Welcome back to my channel, Graveyard Explorers. We're going to have a discussion about catacombs and columbariums and what the difference is between them all, and also we're going to touch upon mausoleums. So let's dive straight into what a catacomb is. So it's a subterranean passageway which was man-made for religious purposes. So although the term catacomb most commonly refers to Roman burial chambers, it is actually nowadays used to refer to any chamber used for burial. So throughout history, people have buried their dead in underground chambers. Now, around 2,000 years ago, the Romans began building catacombs on the outskirts of Rome, and if you're into graveyards, you've probably seen a lot of YouTube videos around these catacombs, and it's somewhere where I so wish I could visit. Now, as you can see, this coffin is decayed. Now, around the Victorian era and even nowadays, the law requires that coffins that are not buried in the ground be lined with lead. Through this video, you will see coffins in various states of decay, and only the wood surrounding and the velvet decorations are affected. Now, unusually, there are several catacombs in London, England, and some dotted about Britain and Ireland. But subterranean construction is limited in London by city's high water table. The last thing you need is to see Granny go floating past you as you look through the gates of a catacomb. Now, under the main structure of many new churches that were built during the Victorian period, vaults or crypts were placed on the ground under the floor, allowing burials to take place within the structure of the church. However, many churches used these crypts or vaults to house the bones of people that were dug up or that were placed there because there wasn't enough room in the graveyards to bury people during the Victorian period. People just would drop in like flies left, right and centre. So they would store them in the underground vaults, mostly stacked up one atop the other. It was quite disrespectful, really. Now, in the underground catacombs, as we can see, there are ornate coffins on shelves. They were placed on shelves because it allowed Victorian mourners to stay close to their deceased loved ones after death. As a result of catacomb burials, they were able to visit the coffin on a regular basis. These burials were expensive. People could spend a great deal of money on the coffins so they could be admired by people visiting loved ones within the crypt, keeping up with the Joneses next door. Now, the catacombs could accommodate thousands of coffins. The cemetery company thought the underground tombs would attract plenty of burials. However, in Britain they didn't prove as popular as the company first thought. Not many places were bought. Now, as the Victorian era progressed, cremation, which is the practice of burning bodies to ashes, became more popular. It was cheaper and seen as more sanitary. It may have been the horrifying public health warnings about lead coffins exploding due to the gases released from decomposing bodies. That kind of put an end to placing coffins on a shelf in the view of the public. The last thing you need is Aunt Vera exploding all over you when you go and celebrate the holidays with her. Now also, in recent years, unique strains of bacteria have been discovered that thrive in catacombs, inducing mineral efflorescence and decay. Now, coffins that were placed in full view on shelves often did not have plaques or information about who they were and when they died, like the buried did. You had to recognise your loved one by the coffin they were in. Eventually, over time, as generations died, these individuals were forgotten and they became the dusty, forgotten places that we see here today. And I must admit, walking through these, there is a strange smell. Now, I'm not saying it's decomposing bodies or anything like that, because they decomposed years ago, but it is a lot different. It's a different smell to one that I've ever smelt before, if that makes sense. Now, placing plaques, like I just said, or covers in front of the coffins where you couldn't actually see the coffin was often a cheaper option than buying an expensive coffin and having that on show. By making catacombs that can accommodate coffins where the head is facing towards the walk-through, as this picture shows, because I'm not very good at explaining, meant that more coffins can be accommodated and more of the plots could be sold, increasing profits for cemeteries. There is always money in death, because it is the one thing we can be sure of in life. Now, the word catacomb is perhaps thought to be derived from the Latin term catacombus, which translate as at the graves. A mausoleum, however, is an above-ground tomb or building composed of granite or marble. Now, we often see these in America. They are very, very posh, very well looked after, but when the cemetery company goes out of business, they can often be left for decay. There's plenty on YouTube about decaying mausoleums where vandals have trashed them and graves have been robbed, coffins have been pulled out. Honestly, it's horrendous. So, back to a whole mausoleum. They usually have doors and a vestibule, as it houses one or more set of remains. Now, there are tombs designed to bury one or more people above ground instead of burying them in the ground. Mausoleums are more popular in areas of America as the water levels and ground conditions don't meet the in-ground burial requirements. However, they are becoming more popular in England. By the 1830s, the graveyards in central London became not only rather full, but also a health hazard. As a result, laws were passed that banned the burial of new bodies in the City of London. In response to this, new cemeteries were built outside of London, which led to the creation of London's Magnificent Seven. I have many videos on London's Magnificent Seven, so have a scroll through. Now, we are at the City of London Cemetery and Crematorium, and this is home to this catacomb. The cemetery and crematorium are located in the east of London, and the City of London Corporation owns and operates the facility. Historics England's National Register of Historic Parks and Gardens classifies this as a Grade 1 graveyard. Now, anyone can be buried at the City of London Cemetery, regardless of their city connections or religious beliefs. In fact, some of the cemetery's graves dating back 75 years and the ones that are known to be deep enough burials have been reused. English Heritage has listed many burial grounds and says it has no objection to the reuse of graves in principle, as long as the heritage is protected. This is how dark it is in here. My camera cannot pick up anything. Now we get to the lighter end. There's a funny smell in here though. Funny smell in there.